What is up, Savants fans? This is episode number 14. This is, I think I'm going to say, I might butcher this, 1969?
I believe so, yes. Yep, you're right. Mm-hmm.
Okay. I just had to correct my pause for a second to make sure I said that right. But we are talking about 1969's On Her Majesty's Secret Service. This movie right here. And this is a George Lazenby movie. This is the only Bond movie with George Lazenby in it. It's got Diana Rigg, Telly Savalas. It also, those are the three notable cast members that I can think of. And this is a really good James Bond film.
Did you say this was like your favorite one?
Yeah, I would say this and what is it? The one Timothy Dalton, The Living Daylights, I would say is up there as well, right around that top 10-ish.
Okay.
So is Live and Let Die as well.
Yeah, I love Live and Let Die.
I do think this still holds up to this day. A lot of critics and stuff, when they are reviewing this movie, they'll put it in 10. They're 10 out of 10 out of like it's like they're 9.5 or they're 10-ish for what the review score for what they will give this movie. I really like. Okay, so I know that was good on our previous episode last week where I need to go say my like reasons why. So I'll just start this out this way. So then we can get into the plot and all that. So my number one reason is the film score. I love the music. John Barry has got to be, at the time when you got Star Wars around this era a little bit, you've got other sci-fi, other action, horror, slashers, all kinds of stuff around this time. But the score to me is really good. I love that. I also love how this movie has throwbacks to the previous movies. And I don't know if you caught the scene where he goes into his office for the first time. In the office, we've got gadgets that have been used in previous movies. So that's kind of like a throwback in a sense to, we had a throwback to From Russia with Love with the watch, garrote. Then also we had a throwback to, I think it's from Thunderball, but we had throwback with Thunderball with the breather thing. And then also we had a throwback to, I believe it's Dr. No, but
yes, Dr. No,
that he pulls out. I didn't see any reference to Goldfinger, but there might be in there. It's really hard to kind of, you would have to slow-mo the scene in order to picture that. But
let me see. Sorry, she asked me a question, so I'm trying to see. This actually is the sixth one that was made in the series.
Chronologically, the first.
Technically, it should be the prequel, but there's some twists in the storyline of this one that we'll get into because I noticed something. I'm sure that Colvin did too. So go ahead, man. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
All good. I also like the setting. I don't know if you're aware about this, but I found out when I've heard other Bond film creators, YouTubers, or whatever, when they talk about this movie, they talk about actually going to this place. This is an actual real place where they filmed it, and I find that interesting as well. It's I think it's one of those cool places where you could go, you could explore, you can discover, you can learn about, and it's an actual eatery to my they've talked about it. I've never actually been. I want to. I mean, it'd be cool to go see filming locations of like a Bond film, because I mean, they've got historic locations. They've been worldwide, the whole universe basically of America, England, all over the world. I like how the skiing scene is one of my favorites. I like how it's done because, if I'm not mistaken, this is like the first Bond movie where he goes skiing. We didn't get more skiing until For Your Eyes Only, in fact. And then we had a tiny bit in, not necessarily skiing, but it was in the Living Daylights, not where they're riding the guitar down.
Yeah. Oh, no, it was the cello case.
Cello.
Yeah.
We also got with this. I like the 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 history with Bond and Blofeld in this one, in a sense, because it's like, who, it's like their first encounter, in a sense, like you pointed out. Like, this should, like Neko pointed out, sorry, it should exactly be a prequel movie. This should have been how you set up the characters, you set up the villains. I love.
Well, also because obviously, when we get to it, we'll discuss some more. But this movie is kind of like the reason why Bond becomes Bond, in terms of how he deals with women going forward, and how he kind of has his wall and guard up when it comes to love. So this is sort of the film that set that tone.
I like how, even though Bond is known for gadgets and stuff mostly, I mean, it's cool. There's two references to From Russia with Love. There's the first one is in the opening, where when he's driving down to the beach and stuff, and that sniper rifle is from Russia with Love also. So it's that one. That's the first reference, and then the second one is the watch. I also like the opening. The opening to me is really cool. It's a throwback to all his previous adventures leading up to this movie.
Yeah. Yeah, you get a lot of clips from all the other films prior to this.
That's one thing I think they did really well when they made this movie, is they cross-reference. They made it like this is Connery's Bond, in a sense, but it's the next generation, in a sense, with Lazenby as Bond.
Well, yeah, I mean, the thing is, like, obviously when Connery came to heads with the studio about the payment, when they moved over to Lazenby, they're like, they actually had given Lazenby, like, I think they were going to do like 7 films with him or something initially. So I think in order to soften the blow, because Connery was pretty popular as Bond, so in order to kind of soften that blow and kind of like hopefully merge them without any hiccups, they did that intro where they were showing all the Connery films and stuff like that, like The Girls, like Pussy Galore and all them. So they were trying to soften that blow so that people would kind of accept Lazenby as Bond going forward. But certainly there were some issues with that as well. So, but one thing I do like about the opening sequence, him driving down the beach, and then Contessa Tracy Vicenzo, who's blowing by him in her car, which we've seen that in parody movies too, like Austin Powers and stuff like that. But she blows by and gets up, far enough ahead where she parks the car and goes to the beach, and he pulls up next to her. He pulls out the scope to the gun you're talking about, the rifle, and he's kind of looking at her on the beach, and she starts to go into the water. Looks like she's going to intentionally drown herself. So he runs out there, gets her, and brings her back. And then all of a sudden, to get some guys that are coming there to try to harm them. What are you showing me here?
Right here, where my finger is the right.
Yeah.
I'm just pointing out that's a reference to.
So they try to take the girl, and of course they're trying to hold. They're actually planning on killing Bond, like, even though I don't think they know who he is at that point. But he gets out of that. They wrestle around. But the funniest moment, and this is why I like the moment.
Hi, Tony.
Hey, what's up, Tony? I like the moment, but because the way that this is all supposed to really work, ultimately, is like, you're supposed to look at Bond as the same guy. These are just different stories within his life. But we all know throughout the career of Bond that there's different actors playing Bond, but they're supposed to be the same guy. Now, the funny thing here is that there's a moment where Contessa, while he's wrestling around with these other guys. She gets away into his car, drives up the hill to her car, gets out,
Hi,
gets in her car,
Gojira.
and goes away. And then he basically looks up and he goes, "Well, that never happened to the other fellow." And I thought that was the funniest fucking
Yes,
thing. Like, even though it's not supposed to be there, but that was like their comedic nod to like Connery not being there. So I thought that was kind of funny that he would make that comment. So it's a nice little fun thing there. You know, the wink wink moment to the other Bond.
What I was going to also say, I love how. So we know how and there's a scene where the Bond's crest. By the way, it's a reference. It would further be a movie title down the road with the Brosnan era, and I'm talking about "The World Is Not Enough" is what the crest also stands for. If I don't know if you're aware about this, but this is a picture right here right here's Blofeld's, and then bottom corner right here.
Yeah.
So it's it says Orbis. I don't know how to say it. It's some weird like. Oh, I like the shirt you're wearing. Also,
Yeah.
he likes your shirt.
Thank you, sir. A Jedi got it for me, actually.
And then also, I like this camera thing up here where my finger is. But it's a camera, and what it did is it kind of froze out Blofeld's plan in a sense when you see the pictures, like Bond's like that taking the pictures and stuff. I also another reason I like this movie, I like the explosions because there's a couple of cool explosions. One is the stock car race.
Was this the only James Lazenby film?
A stock car race. The stock car race had a pretty cool explosion. I was at first I'm like thinking, what is this movie on? Some kind of like a like a.
Can we discuss though that when the Mercedes rolls over and blows up, that no one should have got out of that car?
yes, I agree. I full heartedly agree.
Yeah, I was looking at that. I was like, wait a minute, what?
Also, I like how her father gets involved, and I'm sure we'll talk about that. How the father gets involved. I like how you tie the story together, and this makes for a pretty decent film overall. Here's a detailed picture of Blofeld's hideout.
Yeah.
His
angels of death.
Yes, that's exactly what they call them. Well, I don't know if it references them in the movies, but it does list the cast. On the cast, they are something like. And also, this is one of the John Steers did special effects for this movie. He also did Chitty Chitty Bang Bang. He also did another couple of Bond films and other stuff. I don't know his other film history, like what he did other than some of these actors and stuff would be some production designers would return in later movies also. One is Sid Cain. He would be later down into Man with the Golden Live and Let Die. He would be the art director. Then he would come back. And
can we give a nod to Desmond Llewellyn and Lois Maxwell for their time they put in for Miss Moneypenny and Q for a big long stretch of Bond films? Like that's dedication there, man. That's awesome that they did that.
I didn't. Is there a comment or something I missed?
I don't know. I'm just looking at the.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I'm like thinking, did I miss a comment randomly? No, I agree full-heartedly, though, what you're saying, though. I agree completely. Desmond Llewellyn, phenomenal Q. Got to be the best. There is nobody that can top him. Nobody. I mean,
Yep.
John Cleese is a close second, but it's really hard to say. That's one thing. If they to continue Bond, they need Q back. They need the gadgets. They need the stuff that made Bond creative, fresh, cool, energetic to power that movie, the franchise. And I'm sorry, but and I'm sure you'll agree with me that the Craig stuff just doesn't feel like the stuff of old. That, in a sense, to a degree, of why.
Yeah, Craig was good as Bond, but like they started to leave behind a lot of the stuff that made Bond fun.
That's exactly what I'm trying to say. I think Tracy was a pretty cool Bond.
No, he's not the second best Bond. No. That'd go to Timothy Dalton. I'm having an argument with Neko.
Oh boy.
Actually, okay, I gotta rearrange this.
Yeah, that's why. Where are you putting Connery?
Connery's 1.
So Connery's 1.
Mm-hmm.
So wait, you're putting him above my boy Moore?
No, Moore's 2.
Where she put Lazenby?
Craig is 3, and
Dalton
is 4.
and Lazenby is last.
Lazenby is like 7th.
7th.
The sad thing is like we talk about Pierce Brosnan, like everybody wanted him to be Bond, and he was Bond. He was not that good.
He was not that good.
Like Timothy Dalton was way better.
Yes, he was. But to be fair, again, like, and I'm going to talk about this when we talk about this movie, because this movie is actually written very well. I like the plot. I like the ideas, but it has some problems for me, and part of that is Lazenby, unfortunately. But
Lazenby is not a great actor.
He wasn't horrible,
no,
but
compared to the other Bonds, I think Lazenby.
Oh well, yeah, because each one of them has their own kind of charisma, and
is a like classical actor.
But they were also treating his Bond. They were also treating his Bond like the precursor. So again, like even though it's the 6th film or 7th film in the series, it's supposed to be a prequel. So I kind of see like what they were trying to do with it. But
I understand that just doesn't take away from his acting. He's not the right person for the role.
Well,
he is a more classical actor. He's not meant to be James Bond.
Yeah, he tried to do some of his comedic stuff that didn't really land for me in this.
He's a Shakespearean actor. That's why. He's a stage actor. That's why.
All right. So what do you want to do? Where do you want to go?
Also, I was going to say one more thing. We do have a couple of gadgets, but we didn't have Q introduce them, and that was the safe cracker, which is in Gumball's office. They use that to break in. So it is considered Q's on the book. It is they're considering it Q's. They say Q's safe cracker was so large it had to be delivered in a suitcase by crane, but it worked. It's the little line that book says about it.
The one thing I did like was Blofeld's compact receiver. Yeah. I thought that was very cool.
This is a highly recommended book for any fans of.
Yeah, I'd probably get that. Looks pretty cool.
Yeah, every movie is detailed. I think.
Does that have like the Craig stuff in it, or is that?
That goes all this. So this one goes all the way to Casino Royale. It does not like the movie, like the mission. It details everything. But I mean, it's unique. It's different. It's its own thing.
Okay.
But in order to, you want to start us with the movie plot and stuff, and then I'll continue?
Sure. Yeah, so we talked about Bond. He runs into the Contessa, who, for whatever reason, be pursued by people that Bond doesn't realize, and eventually he runs into her again at a casino where again Bond is playing poker. She comes along and she basically makes a bet where she has no money, even though she does have money, but she doesn't have everything on file there at the casino. So she places like $1,000 bet or something, and she loses. So rather than make a scene, the people, like, they knew who she is, so they kind of escort her out. But Bond chooses to pay her debt, says, I'll cover so she doesn't get thrown in jail or whatever. And so eventually he catches up with her, sits down, and of course she gives him the room key to her hotel key. So when he gets in there, he runs into this big black dude, and they wrestle and tussle around for a while. Guy doesn't speak, kind of reminds me of Whisper from Live and Let Die a little bit, not as fat, but doesn't speak a whole lot.
Probably more athletic than Whisper also.
Yeah, and so he gets him out of the way, but then he goes back to his own room, and that's where the Contessa is. And she's basically saying, yeah, you paid my debt, so I'm here to pay it back to you, basically in sex. And so he's trying to, like, be more a little bit nicer about him, like, you don't really have to do this, but I don't mind getting close to you because he does like her.
Mm-hmm.
So they do spend the night together. Then she leaves in the morning again. So he ends up bumping into some other guys on his way out, and they're tied to that black guy. So they all get into a car. He's going to be taken to I think it's Contessa's dad.
Yeah, that's right.
So they have him, and again, Lazenby's Bond is trying to cut some jokes here and there. Yeah, yep, beautiful woman. Diana Rigg. So they get there, and, like, really at first you're thinking, he's probably going to go to some dude that's going to try to kill him, but he beats up everybody and then gets inside the room where her dad is, and I guess his secretary or whatever, and they're just sitting there. And so he's kind of like, yeah, you didn't have to do all that. Like, I'm not going to hurt you, So Bond, sits down and has a chat with him, and I don't want to, like, spell out every single moment in this, but basically, I think his daughter's just kind of rebellious, and so she's just kind of like constantly running away, and she's trying to find herself, and kind of a hard head, but she loves her dad. It's clear.
When you mentioned before we meet Draco, the janitor is whistling one of the Bond song themes. By the way, I don't know if you caught that. The little tiny janitor dude that before they go into the next room and stuff, that's Goldfinger's theme right off the bat.
Oh, okay.
It's like, listen, it's a real silent, like small whistle, but you can kind of, if you listen and you notice it real closely, I'm thinking it's Goldfinger. I'm not 100% sure, but it sounds like that.
Yeah, I didn't really catch it myself, but I'll take your word for it. But her dad, like, offers Bond like £1 million to marry his daughter, and initially Bond's like, well, no, but I'll continue to romance her. But it's more of like a means to the end. He wants to get to Blofeld because that's his job right now. And one of my favorite villain arcs throughout the Bond franchise is, of course, Spectre. I love Spectre. So again, this is probably also one of the few movies where we had Bond and M they're kind of like combating a lot. Like, they're not getting along too much, especially in this film. M's kind of telling Bond, you need to chill out, take a break. And actually Bond, which again, a funny moment, says, he's kind of fed up. He's like, I'm just going to resign. So he goes out there, talks to Moneypenny, and says, yeah, here's my resignation. You can send it to M and I'll leave. But she gets smart. She knows that it's just frustration basically on Bond's part. So instead of saying that he's going to resign from being an agent, she's like, just need a 2-week break. she gives it to M, but then doesn't tell either one of them. So M calls Bond back in, and Bond's in there, and he's like, "Yeah, your request is granted for 2 weeks." And Bond's like, "Okay." So he goes out and he nods over to Moneypenny that he knows what she did. And then like a second later, after Bond leaves, M hits the intercom, says, "Thank you, Moneypenny," because he knew what would have been a drastic loss for Bond to be taken out of it as well. So she's always been like the in between of what's going on. Even when we saw with Levin that died at the beginning with the girl in the closet, it's like she's like not saying too much to get Bond in trouble. So she's always the one looking out, even though she's always had like this little crush on Bond throughout that time. Let's see. So Bond is going to try to track down Blofeld, and so he ends up going to the Swiss Alps in Switzerland. And this is kind of an interesting thing with this movie because there's a lot of snow scenes compared to some of the other films we've seen. There's a lot in dealing with the snow and wintertime, which is kind of cool.
If I'm not mistaken, the person that did the snow stunts might have been the same person that did the stunts in Thunderball. I'm gonna have to, while you're talking, I'm gonna have to look that up to make sure I'm saying that right. But I can't. I'm thinking that's who, but I'll have to look up. But go ahead.
So this comes to where Bond ends up breaking into the Gruber Gumball. That's the law firm where you said something about the safe cracking. That's where that takes place, and he finds out that Blofeld is corresponding with London College of Orange genealogist Hilary Bray, attempting to claim the title of Count Balthazar Beauchamp. So this is where Bond will portray himself as Bray, and he goes to meet Blofeld, and that's played by, of course, Telly Savalas, who was Kojak for many years. Great show if you've never seen that. So he goes to meet him, and he talks to him a little bit, and really I kind of lost track of what's going on here, but I do find out that what's her fucking name?
Telly Savalas?
Irma Bunt. So she's played by Ilse Stappa, who's the henchwoman to Blofeld. She's like the how would I compare her? Because she's like, if you ever seen Austin Powers, she's like the older woman in Austin Powers. She's like that kind of character.
Okay, so Vic, apparently the ski stunts were performed by Luki, Luki Leitner, Leitner, or Vic Armstrong was also. And the filmography, on camera, was a guy named Willie Bogner. He's done a lot. He was the cameraman that did the skiing. He's got a site about that stuff also. And he's got pictures with him in front on the camera on the skis. So it's really cool. I just found this out.
So Irma is basically modeled, Frau is actually basically modeled after Irma, that type of character. So Frau from the Austin Powers series is modeled after her character. And she basically stays in charge and keeps track of these girls that are there. And they're supposedly, I think they're rehabbing or something of that nature. They're trying to it's like a retreat. They're trying to better themselves and self-reflection and shit like that. Very pretty girls. But what we find out is Blofeld is basically using subconscious techniques to program them as killers. So even though normally they'll just act normal, flirt, be friendly, funny, goofy, whatever, each night they're going through these subliminal messages while they're sleeping. And the idea is that Blofeld wants to use them as like agents of death out in the real world, where when he says it's time, that's how he basically is going to try to do this. We get our first kind of moment where Bray, played by Bond, is meeting the girls, and they're all kind of flirting, but he doesn't act like he's not acting like a flamboyant guy there. He's just kind of like, yeah, yada yada yada. But the girls all are enamored with him. So, and then eventually, even the first night or so, he starts hooking up with at least one of them, and then almost hooks up with another one. But it's kind of funny how it all plays out. Then he starts hearing Blofeld's voice on the intercoms, and the girls again are either just in a deep sleep or hypnotic state, and they don't really respond. They can be wide awake, but still just kind of sitting there listening. And so that's how Bond is kind of understanding how he's playing this game with the girls and what he's trying to do. So he's still going to try to unravel it. Do you want to pick it up from there?
So you're Bond. So you're saying we're getting ready for Bond to get into the cable car escape?
Yeah, that's fine. Just like after we've met the girls and start finding out
okay. So after we meet the girls and stuff, Bond gets captured after going into one of the rooms, and where Irma Bunt is in. We think it's a girl, one of the angels of death.
Yeah,
and it's not, and it's actually Irma Bunt in bed, asleep. I think it's a trap set for Bond.
Yep.
That's the key word I'm feeling is it was a trap set up. And it sets up Bond getting knocked out, and he gets reintroduced to Blofeld, because I would assume this is their second encounter in a sense. The only reason I say that is because the previous movie introduced Blofeld to the on-screen physical portrayal of Blofeld, so that's why I say it that way. And You Only Live Twice, so that's why I say it that way, as their first real encounter of each other. Well, and you also see that one guy that delivered the safe, the blonde. He's dead. He tried to come to Bond's rescue, and he got killed as well. I don't know if he has a name or anything, but I'm assuming he's just some spy or agent. I've never found that out, I don't think, to be frank.
Mm-hmm.
And I like how they have this really cool scene after Bond's knocked out. He's like, we'll put him in a cell or whatever for a while to cool off, or something like that, Blofeld says. And in that scene, Blofeld, they throw Bond into the cable car room, in a sense, because there's this switch thing on the floor, and Bond can press these buttons. It's like I'm about to pull a Super Mario 64 reference here now. My first ever video game, and it's like Super Mario 64. There's a world in Super Mario 64, and they have this button thing, and in order to move Mario and stuff, you have to press certain buttons on the elevator moving forward to do it. And it was like that in a sense to me. I get that reference in my head from that game. It's a classic. Anyways, I do think, I don't know what they were doing with that scene, but that's just the inspiration I get from that. Because he grabs onto the line then and is trying to move across, and the cable car is coming back right when he moves across. So he falls back onto that switch thing, and when that cable car is gone, he goes out and gets away. And then as he's going down the line later, I think he's above the cable car at the time. The cable car is coming towards him. And you know what Bond I'm getting a reference to is Moonraker from that scene right there a little bit also. Because in Moonraker, they have it's kind of like how Bond and the girl Holly Goodhead.
What's up, Jedi?
Hi, Jedi. But it's like Holly and Bond, instead of Bond trying to go diagonal down, he's going straight across. And he's going straight across from the cable car so it's careening towards him real rapidly fast, I think, also. So Bond manages to get onto the cable car as it's coming. He lands on the top, and then he's able to ride it a little bit, sneak in back into Piz Gloria, where we get Bond getting the skis and everything. And in this scene we get Bond on grabbing the skis, and we get one of the coolest Bond scenes, I think, in the Bond history. It's got to be up there somewhere, and we get the really awesome, cool music of this scene as well with it, and it is really good. I highly recommend it. This movie is like, if I had to go through my tracks for Bond music, it would be in the top 10 probably. That's how good. And what's nice is on my mixes on YouTube, it will sometimes show up with other stuff. Like, it'll show up sometimes with the ski chase from The Spy Who Loved Me and other Bond songs and other movie scores. But I do think this one is really cool because of that scene. I do like the choreography of the scene as well, how Bond is going straight down. And it's basically Bond is fighting trying to survive for his life. And I like that about this scene. Now, when Bond's going, eventually Bond meets the end of a cliff in a sense, and if he goes straight off, he's dead. So he's got guards after him. He uses his one ski pole he loses, I think, and so he's got another ski with him, and he just whacks the guy with the ski, and he goes flying over the cliff. Oh my gosh, it's cool to watch and stuff. And then I think there's another guy, and he's like choking him, this other guy, and because he doesn't want Blofeld to know he's there, he's trying to choke him out, knock him out, whatever. But it's a really cool little scene there also, because you're basically trying to survive and you're fighting for your life with that scene also. But he eventually knocks him out, I think, the guy, or kills him. I can't remember. And I just watched the movie today. But Bond makes it down to the bottom of Piz Gloria. I don't know if that's what it's called at the bottom, the area where they're all together. but he re-encounters the girls and other.
Yeah, basically, when he makes it back out, the girls are already like kind of starting their way to make their way to the real world, but there's like an ice rink down there, so he's kind of getting to it because he's trying to avoid Irma and her henchmen. So it's like he puts on like a jacket, and he's kind of sitting there and trying to stay hidden, and so they can't find him. But then Contessa shows up. She's skating, and so she shows up there and sits down with him.
I like the little scene with the Contessa, and I do like the scene coming up, the phone scene where Bond's like, hello, London, trying to call, and then all of a sudden, it had to be a split second luck chance that Bond ducked. Imagine if Bond was stayed upright in that position, he would have been dead. So he's lucky. It's like a spider sense. Bond sense. But anyways, shout out to what's the game? Because there was a game that had a thing called Bond Sense, or I can't think of the name. It'll come back to me in a minute. Everything or Nothing. That's it. But it's a Bond sense because Bond kind of knew they were after him already because they're in the car trying to get him.
Yep.
And so a split second decision in the duck. Bond's running. Like bullets are just coming left and right from him, from SPECTRE now at this point. And we get Bond and Tracy end up in a stock car race.
Yeah. Yep. So he tells her to go into the stock car race. So they've got all these little MGs in there and stuff. And so they're bumping and grinding with these things. And then the Mercedes that's following them with Irma and her henchmen, they're chasing around trying to get to him, and they're still shooting. And of course, the racers are just kind of like thinking it's just part of the race. They're not even paying attention that there's two different types of cars in there. But there comes a point where the Mercedes tips over, and this is what I was talking about earlier, where once it does, the Mercedes goes up in flames. But then all of a sudden, the next scene we get with them, the henchmen are crawling out, and Irma too. And I'm like, there's just no way. It was on fire. But anyway, they're out, and this gives Bond and them a chance to get out. So they get out on the main roads again. Hats off to Contessa. She knows how to drive in snow, icy roads like that, like she's a pro. So good on her. So they get to like this a barn because it's starting to winter. It's starting to get the blizzard and stuff. So they pull into this barn, spend an evening together, chilling and waiting for the storm to pass. And somehow, I don't know how, but Blofeld and his group on skis make it to where the farmhouse is. And I don't know how they even knew they were in there, but they check it. They see the car still there, but both Contessa and Bond have left on their own skis, and they're heading out. I forget where they're heading at this stage. I guess it's the next town. Huh?
The barn.
No, after they left the barn, where were they going?
Oh, okay. You're probably right. They were probably. It doesn't. They never said in the movie where. So you could make any prediction, but I would say.
I mean, I know that Blofeld
was.
Yeah, Blofeld was trying because Blofeld was chasing them, and he was trying to create like an avalanche to kill them. He was doing this crazy shit.
Oh, I think that this scene before the avalanche where they're skiing down the hill and the Zamboni, I think it is.
Yeah.
Or, I like the line that says, "He had a lot of guts."
But once Blofeld does that, it actually kind of buries Bond in some snow. even though he's still alive, but they capture Tracy in the process. So now they're back at the London office, and Bond is like, we gotta go save her. She saved my life. We can't leave her. You know, he's like, we can't do this. But Emma's still like giving him kind of a hard time, like, yeah, we really can't do this, you know. But this is where Contessa's father comes in, because he's got like his own helicopters and his own, you know, henchmen and whatnot. Because I don't even know what does her dad do. Like he's not totally straight, but
so he is he did what is it? He's head of Draco. Go ahead and talk, because I can tell you.
Yeah, Draco is the father. So Bond enlists him because they Blofeld wanted like a ransom, which the MI6 was going to pay, but Bond doesn't want to do that. Bond doesn't want to give in to Blofeld's demands to get her back. So he contacts the father. That's when he gets the helicopters and the manpower to go and attack the installation where Blofeld is at. So yeah, we get this, you know, they get in there, they start killing off some of the bad henchmen, and Bond is able to go ahead.
Sorry. Draco is the head of one of the most powerful crime syndicates in the world. He is the father of Tracy Bond. He was.
So yeah, he's not entirely a good dude either. So like, even though he's not the enemy at this point, right? He's doing it all for his daughter, so obviously. But so the attack on the installation, they do manage to get Tracy, but this is where Bond starts chasing Blofeld on a bobsled, which is again the most ridiculous thing ever, but fun to watch.
It works, I think, for what it is. So.
Yeah. And this goes on for a while until Blofeld gets trapped on a tree because he's trying to choke Bond on the bobsled, but then he's up in the air and the tree's hanging low and he catches it right in the middle. Probably should have killed him, but I think it just damages his vocal cords or something at that point. And then really basically, they're able to stop Blofeld from activating his control of the Angels of Death, so that helps.
Yeah, I would say they stopped him by blowing up his Gloria. That would be my just generic guess altogether, is how or why.
Right.
But I also think that scene with the bobsled is pretty cool, because when they're fighting against stuff, Bond's bobsled basically gets destroyed, I think. And Bond's just sliding around, like playing Mario Kart in the snow, trying to get to Blofeld. And I do like how when they're fighting between Bond and Blofeld on the sled, Bond kicks him up in the air of his feet, I think I noticed. And Blofeld's like CM Punk style, knocked out, cold.
Night.
And I do think that's a cool scene. The bobsled, it sets up stuff for Bond in a sense.
So Bond ends up marrying Tracy, and nice little wedding at the Draco's house or mansion or whatever, and everybody's there, even M. Or is it M? No, it's Q, and even Moneypenny's there. So they drive away in the Aston Martin, and once he pulls over, because they got a bunch of flowers, it says just married or whatever on the car, so he's kind of pulling them off, and he's talking sweet with Contessa, because they're married and happy, and they plan to. I think at this point, Bond was going to retire, be done with it, and just spend the rest of his life with her, but. We get this car that rolls up, and it's both Blofeld and Irma Bunt, and she has a machine gun, which she shoots at the Aston Martin, but misses Bond. And as he gets into the car to try to chase him down, finds out that Contessa was shot in the head on the drive-by.
Mm-hmm.
And there's this guy on his bike. It looks like it might be a peace officer. I'm not sure, but he comes up.
Police officer.
Yeah, so Bond is sitting there and he's grieving, and he's like, she'll be okay. She's just sleeping. Although he understands she's gone, but he just tries to pretend she's not. And then the film ends.
I'm getting the feeling that police officer was the escort for them. You know how weddings have escorts? When they're out of them and stuff. That's why I'm getting the feeling. Just my theory. You could theorize with it, but that's just my theory as to what he is. Yeah. I got a question for you.
Sure.
This movie. We'll just add this as a new question for this show. If you're somebody that's never seen this, would you recommend? Is this a movie you would recommend to somebody, or would you not recommend, and why?
It depends how they approach it. If you're somebody who's like, I want to sit and I want to watch all the Bond films, I would say start with this one. And, people may be like, why? And I say, well, because, again, this sets the tone for how Bond would be going in the future. Even though it's the 6th or 7th one in the series at this point, it's technically a prequel. It's everything that sets up Bond for who he is as an agent going forward. I mean, we've seen Bond in Timothy Dalton's version, License to Kill, become very vengeful. We've seen how Daniel Craig is kind of a similar way. So, it touches a little bit on, like, especially with Craig's version, we have him being in love again with some other women that end up dying. Like, it's just a tragic thing for Bond, unfortunately. Whenever he falls in love with a woman, they become expendable, basically. So usually, even when he's just sleeping with other women, Octopussy, there's a Contessa in that one that dies by tragic, circumstances. So it's, I think in a lot of ways, Bond kind of saw it after this film. He's just destined not to be in love. Like, that's sort of like his way of thinking going forward. Like, he knows he doesn't want to put himself through that pain again. So if someone said to me, I want to watch all the Bond films, where should I start? You start with this one. Now, the problem is like, this is not one of the better ones for me. And I'm going to ask you a similar question, because I know we're going to rate it and talk about our final thoughts. But one of my issues is that Lazenby really doesn't sell this film the way it should be. Like, the plot is great. The story is great. There's a lot that I love about it. It's just that Lazenby doesn't really come off as convincing as I would like. If this had been like a Timothy Dalton film, I think it probably would have worked better, because Timothy's able to convey emotion a little bit better.
You just said it.
But here's the other thing. So if I were to say, if you could remake one Bond film, this would be the one I would do. And this would be kind of my lineup, because there's some things in here I'd like to see. So as Bond, I'd love to see Idris Elba play the Bond in this one. Because I think he has the humor and emotion that you would want from a Bond. And we talked about how the Angels of Death, like, they're supposed to go do certain things. I would like to see one. I'd like to see one of the girls actually commit the crime. Like, that's kind of a cool concept. So her to kind of do that assassination would be kind of neat.
Mm-hmm.
I think the main Bond girl in this would be Ana de Armas, who we actually saw in one of the Craig films. So I'd like to see her be the main.
Yes, I agree.
Then maybe two of the Angels.
What they did was Ana de Armas was in that one.
So two of the Angels of Death, I'd like to see maybe Margot Robbie or Alexandra Daddario in those roles as well. So that'd be kind of my like play around list of how I'd redo this film. But yeah, if somebody wanted to start watching all these films, I think you have to start here, because by the time they had gone through Dr. No Till Now, they might be a little confused about why Bond all of a sudden is wanting to get married, or why he's not acting the way he acted in the other films. And this is really kind of the great starting point.
Mm-hmm. Were you asking me a question?
Well, no, I mean, you asked me the question, so now I'm going to turn it back on you. So how do you feel about that? If someone asked you like where to start, would you recommend this film?
I would definitely recommend it because a lot of people, like I said earlier, a lot of critics and stuff, it's in their like top 10 list. I don't know why. I'm just me, and that's all I can say.
Right.
But I would say yes, I would put it in their top 10. Would it be the number one? I don't know, really. It's a tough question because
here's another question too, though, real quick.
Uh-huh.
One of the reasons why this film never really sticks with me, because unlike most Bond films, it's a lot of fun at the end, because Bond's just kind of goofing off with Emma every time Emma's trying to communicate with him at the end. This one doesn't. It ends with the death, and so it's like very somber, very weird. Would you prefer it if they kind of did this sequence like a little bit more in the middle?
Yeah, and you know how that if I'm working this out, I would do it as a revenge style movie after from after the middle forwards. I would say it's kind of like would be in a sense like a Diamonds, because the Diamonds to me is like a revenge movie because you've got Connery, going against Blofeld. The whole movie it's like right in the opening. Where's Blofeld? Where's Blofeld? Where's Blofeld? That is right. It feels into this movie, and then also it could. I mean, you could do a whole movie like in the style of Diamonds, but darker. I could see it done actually, where it's exactly what you need for a Bond film to be successful. How it needs to be is like that.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the reason I say I would recommend it is because you have characters that could be fleshed into more. You could do a spin-off, like let's say you could do a spin-off of Draco, because you don't know, and the wiki itself, it does not list anything about his previous on the movie character thing about his organization. So you could do like a spin-off. Who is Draco? Who is like exploring this character until you get to that point where you explore it, you understand it, you learn about it, and it could be a spin-off like a TV show. I hope Amazon doesn't do that, but I mean, I just hope it goes the right direction when Amazon gets it as well, because I've been a fan since Diamonds, in fact. And
that's why I kind of liked Rick Myers' approach to it, because he's like, I was one that said that, and Neko feels the same way, the next Bond should be Idris Elba. Like, he's just a really good actor and somebody I think would do. But one thing that Rick said was, with Amazon, you can technically take any story and just put whatever Bond you want. So he said, I love Christopher Nolan as a director. I love his work.
I would love to see Nolan do Bond. Oh my God.
Right.
You got me.
And then like, how about we take Quentin Tarantino and let him do a Bond? Or, some other great director. Like, you can kind of mix it up and then let those directors choose whatever Bond they want.
What?
So this way we don't have to necessarily get attached to one guy. We can just go with the stories.
Mm-hmm. Now, here's the thing. What if you had... So I know other franchises have had writing rooms, like Star Wars, for example, and the later stuff, where they had a writing room. I think different directors and stuff like they've done with the TV shows. What if you had like that with Bond? Like, you had a whole writing room of people, each person could... It's exactly what you're saying, but like, what if, it's a what if question. It would be a real interesting, fun topic actually for your show. What if?
Yep. Yeah, it probably will show up some point, because I have a lot of shit I want to talk about in what if departments. So for sure.
I mean, but also the reason I say I recommend it is because other than some of the characters, I think this is like a preview of the Craig stuff in a sense, because It's a modern. It's an older preview of Casino Royale.
Yeah, you're right, because you can literally go from this to actually you can go almost to Timothy Dalton stuff, which is a little more serious, and then go to Daniel Craig, which is also serious.
Mm-hmm.
Because those are basically the more, even though you don't see much from Lazenby in this, you definitely see like Timothy Dalton, Daniel Craig is more angry type of James Bonds, or not the funny guys too much. Timothy does have a sense of humor, but but Daniel doesn't. But their stories are much more serious than what we see in some of the other Bond films.
Yeah. You didn't do we want to do review scores before other? Or
Oh yeah, sure. Absolutely. You want me to go first?
It's up to you. I don't care.
Yeah, so it'd been a long time since I had watched this, so I actually really enjoyed watching it again. Mainly because, again, I forgot Telly Savalas was in this. I really liked it. Telly Savalas, excuse me.
Sesame
Thank
Street Telly. That's how I
Telly.
like Telly.
What's on the telly?
Yeah.
That's how he got famous, by shaving his head. He shaved his head for one of the.
Hold that thought for the review stuff. I was going to play the video real quick.
Oh, yeah. Go ahead. Play it.
Okay.
So far, we've done 2 fights with a new James Bond, and he's really a good man at action. We're not allowing him to have any doubles. He's got to do all the fighting himself. He's going to do everything the hard way, and he'll do it very well.
Well, I do my own stunts mainly because the director wants me to. He feels, and I also agree with him, that it'll look better and they can go in closer on you when you're doing your own stunts.
That's a really insight. I also have this about Lazenby. If you want to read that, you can.
Uni's journey began with 0 acting experience when he landed the role in Honor Majesty. That explains a lot, actually. Stepping in after Sean Connery's departure. Despite winning this iconic role, Lazenby famously turned down a lucrative multi-film contract influenced by his manner of belief that Bond was becoming outdated.
Wow.
Bad move, but good for Roger Moore and Sean Connery. The 1960s counterculture. Though his Bond tenure lasted just 1 film, he forged a diverse acting career spanning over 60 projects. It probably goes to what Neko said about his classical Broadway train or whatever it was.
Yeah.
Yep. And so Lazenby announced his retirement from acting and public appearances, closing a remarkable chapter. While reports mentioned sightings after his retirement announcement, no verified public appearances have been confirmed since then. So, yeah. And I could tell that he didn't have much experience in acting because, at least in terms of film, because he was trying to do some of the same, comedic spots in the dialogue, and it didn't really land as well as it should. And that might have been some of the reason why people couldn't connect with him that much. I mean, Connery was loved, but as we saw with Moore was able to kind of do that stuff a little bit more easier than he was. But
Yes, but they loved Connery because Connery was kind of
slapped asses.
Yeah, slapped asses. So.
Well, they actually said that. One of the things.
At one point, they were concerned about even putting him on screen because he was a little bit too crude. He was this just like Scottish, no couth, no respect kind of guy. And it kind of turned into his whole persona.
Well, so here's the funny thing, too, though. Apparently, Lazenby was not that liked either on set. Apparently, his youthful cockiness rankled to producer Albert Arbacoli's nerves. So one incident mentioned is Lazenby skiing down the slopes on his own resulted in a broken arm and a moment of arrogance on Lazenby's part that spoiled a cast and crew party. Then notoriously harsh British tabloids writing up unfavorable stories about Lazenby and how he fails to measure up to Sir Sean Connery, therefore swaying public opinion against the movie before it was released. We see a lot of that today.
One incident cited by Lazenby was during an interview with a reporter in the commissary in which Diana Rigg jokingly yelled, "I'm having garlic for lunch, darling. I hope you are too." This led to an article in which Rigg supposedly hated Lazenby so much that she eats garlic before the love scenes. I don't know how true that is, but that's kind of funny if it is.
So other than Bond, Lazenby had unofficial appearances. He was in a television movie called The Return the Return of the Man from U.N.C.L.E. It's a sequel to the 1960s television spy series, A Man from U.N.C.L.E. He plays an unnamed but easily recognizable spy character. Also, he was in some special guest appearance. I think that his character is Napoleon Solo, something. I can't figure this out, but this is on the wiki on James Bond wiki on Lazenby. And then he also did something called Diamonds Aren't Forever. It's on in the Alfred Hitchcock Presents TV series. That's interesting.
Here's something funny. This reminds me of what you did. Yeah, I know. The Bond girl who writes her room number inside of James Bond's bare thigh, the crew member warms a sausage and then put it under Bond's kilt when Scalar, which is the actress, puts her hand under the kilt. She is ever the professional and hardly reacts. This reminds me of a joke that Neko and some did to one of her co-stars on a play they were doing, in which they're reading out of this book and you're just kind of looking at pictures, but they're basically just making whatever dialogue up it's for nonsense. And what they were doing was they were playing jokes on each other. So for one of the girls who was filling in, they put this giant picture of this penis inside of it. And as the audience, you can't see what's going on, but as she's going on, they're talking and doing their dialogue, acting out their stuff. They come to it, and only I knew because I knew what this picture was in there. She goes, "Oh, I like that recipe," and I'm like, "Oh my god!" I started laughing so hard, but no one else in the audience even knew what she was looking at. That's what made it funny. But that reminds me of that.
Are you gonna do the review score and stuff?
Yeah, I will. I was gonna say something else here.
Okay.
Maybe that was it. Yeah. Oh, so apparently this is Christopher Nolan's favorite Bond film, by the way. So go figure.
I wonder why.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, the film is good. I like the plot a lot. It's just I think unfortunately Lazenby kind of fell flat in it, but I would love to see a reboot of this particular film. No matter how they do it, just do it right. Maybe even with the theory that we're talking about with different directors and whatnot, maybe just kind of doing one of these. But if I had to give a score right now, I would give the script a 9, but I would give the movie a 7.
Interesting. You say that. I would say mine's about a 9.5. I would say for a movie. I mean, it could be a 10, but if the flaws, weren't evident, then maybe.
You were right, by the way. That short guy, he is whistling the Goldfinger theme.
Yep. So that's cool. That's kind of cool. That's what it's like a nod to the one of the previous films. It's like another thing that I think would be cool is what if these Bonds stayed in the same continuity, and even though, that's kind of, in a sense, you're getting that in the video game now, the upcoming, did you get to see the trailer? If not, you got to check the trailer out. There's a new Bond game on the rise coming out next year. Highly recommend you check out the trailer. But it's a new origin story also. So it's something you'll have to look out for, if it's something that interests you enough. But they also kind of replayed this movie in 007 Legends when this when the game came out, and what it is.
Holy fuck.
What?
That's insane. Offered the part of James Bond in this film at age 22, Timothy Dalton turned it down because he felt he was too young and relatively inexperienced to take the role.
Wow.
Yet he became Bond years later. That is fucking insane. That's crazy because I said if there's somebody that can play the emotion and humor role, he would be the guy. That's insane. I never knew that.
Yeah,
That's crazy.
you imagine now then if would more be after Timothy than if they were to do that?
Well, the other thing is that would have changed a lot, I think, because if Timothy's successful, Connery probably doesn't come back, and then Moore probably doesn't start till much later at that point. So imagine Live and Let Die with Timothy Dalton. You know what I'm saying? Like it just changes the entire dynamic of film. So
honestly, I could see. I'm going to go out on a limb and say I could have seen a Timothy Dalton Live and Let Die. It would have been darker than probably the original.
Yeah. No, Dalton's a very good. Like I remember when he got the role.
Seen him in my play.
Oh yeah, he's a fantastic actor, and that's the thing. Like everybody was so headset on Pierce Brosnan at that time that it's like they didn't want to give Timothy a chance. I went to the theaters to watch Timothy, and I thought he was a fucking amazing in him. I loved it.
But if I would say 9 for the movie, the script is probably 8-ish. Do you want upcoming content?
Yeah.
First, my pick for next week will be For Your Eyes Only, so I'm going to stick with the Bond theme. Heading back to my favorite Bond, Roger Moore. So we'll be hitting that one next week. Tomorrow, Mr. Tony the Dead and Big Bad Wolf and I are going to discuss and review Predator, Killer of Killers. So we got a chance to watch that. And did you see it yet?
Didn't get the chance to watch something weird and fallen asleep last Thursday on something on Netflix. It's like this bullet train movie.
Right. Oh, that's a good movie then. But yeah, so we'll be reviewing that, and then Monday, 5:00 p.m. Eastern, I'm getting with Kevin Lambert for Vintage Cult Cinema to review Grandma's Boy, which is one of my favorite comedies ever. And Ghouls of Midnight, my pick's going to be How to Kill Monsters from 2023.
I've never seen it. It sounds interesting.
It's kind of fun. It's a kind of fun movie.
I'll
You should check it out. It's on Tubi right now. So.
Oh, cool. Well, I have all this. I have all the streaming services, I think, except Prime. So.
Yeah. Then Friday, Kaiju Spotlight returns. I have Jedi Granville with me doing Gyra, one of the Gargantuas. Monday. We talked about this.
No, I know that.
Oh, I haven't added everything quite yet. Well, it's on my list. I have to sync mine with yours. You need to.
Oh.
And Saturday, I'm getting with Jedi on his channel to do another celebration of Jaws' 50th anniversary, where we'll be discussing Jaws again. Today I did one with Anthony Jordan, which was a lot of fun. So Saturday I'll be getting with Jedi to do that. So that's what's in the immediate future for me.
First, I'll start out with this. This is our new show on this channel. Me and Gojira 851 are gonna be talking comic book stuff. I think
that's kind of cool. He loves comics.
So I mean, it's a new show. Don't have a date yet set. I'm giving him time to research this character, do all that stuff. But this will be our first episode. We will be covering this character, the Max.
Max.
For our next thing, I have been playing this. I played this last night. I would say if you're a Gears fan, you got to check it out. It's different on the PlayStation. It's a different feeling altogether.
Mhm.
If I had to, oh, Tony's talking to you in chat.
Yeah, I'll get to him.
But I do say there is stuff that can be fixed for it. I mean, it's early beta, and you had to pre-order the game to check it out. But in fact, me and GoGR851 will be doing a stream of this Gears of War Reloaded when it comes out in August. And yeah, Tony, I played the beta last night. I started on went about 7 o'clock to about 8, 9, or 10 actually. So y'all have to go on this channel if you want to see the gameplay. And then this is coming back tonight on my channel here shortly after we end. I'll be streaming this live. So if anybody wants to come hang out and watch Webhead, this is Spider-Man for the PlayStation. This is Spider-Man Remastered. This is really good story, really cool characters. This is one way that Spider-Man is just becoming awesome and cool still. And they're keeping it fresh. I think eventually they will be doing a Spider-Man 3. I highly recommend you guys, if any of you guys are gamers, gotta check it out because it's one of the best games. If you like the Batman Arkham games, the gameplay is similar to that. It's different, but the combat is what I'm saying when I say the gameplay for Arkham and Spider-Man they're different, they're cool, they're unique, but they're fun to watch. And I don't know if I want to talk really about the tokusatsu stuff because it's kind of
Yeah, aren't you just gonna kind of make that like a playlist on Olva now, like for special things or whatever?
What I could do, and I don't know if this would catch on over here, is I might move the show over here. Try it that way.
Well, on my channel, that's how I break it up into playlists, so it all all under the umbrella.
So I'm thinking of changing the name, and instead of Godzilla's and Gamera, I'm gonna probably drop it because it's not that I don't want to. People get so I just don't want to get overwhelmed, overstressed, overstimulated. When you put yourself out there like talking tokusatsu, you're talking about everything tokusatsu. So what I'm doing right now and with Geek and stuff, we're probably gonna run it over here now though. So I gotta make a new intro and new outro, or I could move the outro that we have and make that the intro. I don't know. I want to. If I do that, I'm gonna have to do credits of the show name and title. But I do want to do probably a new outro or intro, whatever. But that is, I had a name and it kind of called, and the name for I had a segment idea and I really liked the name. It was called, I have this idea to do Henshin, which is transformation. That's that's another way for saying transformation, but in heritage. And if you do, heritage is another word for lore. And so you could do stuff like, I really like the idea of doing like Henshin heritage, Then you can talk Kamen Rider stuff. You could go into you can go into Ultraman. You can go into the stuff, the characters to transform, and it's really fun. You could build the audience. You can do stuff We will be doing that. But then as for the show name, I'm thinking of doing something like Henshin Revolution or something cool. And then also we'll still be reviewing stuff.
Uh-huh.
But it'll be are you talking to Tony or me for
I'm talking to Tony right now.
Oh. Yeah. So this will be. I'm thinking of streaming this show on Facebook because I noticed I have a lot of tokusatsu friends and stuff on the Facebook side, and so why not try it and run it on Facebook? See, what works, what doesn't. What works for the show, what doesn't, and then you can play around. Eventually, I do want to get with you and others in the society because I want to do I have a show that I started, a segment I started way back in the day. I want to do something called Why Are You a Fan Of? And it's kind of like your what if.
Mm-hmm.
And so like my first episode, and
Kevin said that we can do it at 6.
Did you just text him? All right. Well, I'll change it.
But I want to
be home by then? All right. Sorry. Go ahead, buddy. Sorry.
Okay. Anyways, but I want to do with you because I did my version of why I am a fan of horror way back in the day. I want to know why are you a fan of horror, like as a little segment, for a little show,
Sure.
Because I'm curious, like what all you guys in this sci-fi society, like why you guys like the stuff, I'm just curious. So I'll be sure to get with each one. Maybe I don't know who to get, but I've got some ideas of who. Maybe Gojira for like why he likes Doom because he's a big, he streams his Doom games on the Doom games on the channel, or maybe Jedi why he likes Star Wars or the Mission Impossible movies, for example, or the stuff that catches your eye that makes you interested. I know but I am looking forward to next Saturday's pick. You can catch this show next Saturday at 7:00 Central for the next episode of Silver Screen Savants. But yep, but I've been Olvin, and this has been DJ Anubis, and this is the Silver Screen Savants, episode 14. Wow, I can't believe we're almost to 20 with this show.
Yep.
It's working, so
getting there.
I think
audience enjoy. It's a lot of fun.
It's a lot of fun doing these with you, for sure.
Yep.
Talking movies, getting into the nostalgia, the drive. And I'm sure eventually this year, I want to. I don't know if you and Jenna have your schedules, what your schedules are. I do want to do the ranking of the James Bonds this year. For sure.
Yeah, I think the plan will be once we've kind of gotten through at least most of them.
I mean, I know.
No. I think we should wait more towards the end of the year because by then we'll have most of them watched.
Okay, so
and then we'll just go in, like, even if we have like a couple left, we'll go ahead and start ranking them at that point because at least we'll have gotten through most of them, I think, by that point.
And then also, while I'm mentioning it, Mr. Tony of the Dead, I don't know what your availability is, but when we covered horror, I want you on the show as well. So.
Oh yeah, Tony knows his shit with horror.
So I want to get you on that as well when we cover the horror stuff.
Anthony's a big horror guy too. Anthony.
Yeah, maybe Anthony, you, and Tony or something. I've got some ideas for co-host on the new show also. So.
Okay.
But
cool deal.
It's going to be live, so thank you all for watching. Make sure you like, subscribe, comment, all that cool geek stuff. You'll see this show. I don't know if you'll see me on Thursday or not, but if... Oh, Tony's comment.
Tony's a terror,
yeah.
But
But this has been Silver Screen Savants, episode 14.
It's in Plex. He just needs to go to the Plex. It's in there.
Huh?
I'm talking to Neko.
Oh, and
Sorry.
then, but you'll see this show next week. You might see something well, actually, take it back. You'll see me on Spider-Man here in a bit. Oh, Tony, I don't know if he was commenting on me or.
I think he's talking to your stuff.
Oh, yeah. Talking Tokusatsu on here, on this channel. All right.
Tokusatsu.
But anyways, this has been Silver Screen Savants, episode 14. We will see you on episode 15.
Later.